One of the biggest myths I see elopement photographers believe is that their prices are scaring couples away. They assume they aren't getting bookings because the economy is bad and people just can't afford them. But most of the time, it's not your pricing, it's your marketing. Because there are couples spending six, eight, even $10,000 on elopement photography right now. Not every couple wants a good deal. So if you're not booking couples, the real question isn't, are my prices too high? It's why aren't those couples finding me and choosing me? So today we're going to break down exactly why that happens and why it's your marketing. Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail.
And your co-host, Todd Reedy.
And today's episode is something I've posted on social media several times where I say, it's not your pricing, it's your marketing. You know, that's the reason why you're struggling in your business. It's not because you're charging too much and if you lower your prices, you'll suddenly get booked out. That's not what we see. Deeper into what that means and why I say that and why if you're sitting here thinking like, oh, it's my prices, the economy's bad, that kind of stuff, groceries are really expensive, no one can afford their rent, la, 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 la. Like, I want to explain why you don't have to worry about those things and you can charge what you need to charge to be a successful business owner and get booked out. And that marketing is truly the issue here, not your pricing. That's really what I want to drive home. And I'm going to start with an analogy from my days in veterinary medicine, because I think sometimes when you share something outside of our industry, it makes a little bit more sense, you know? So when I was a vet, I don't know if it's still this way, but when I was a vet, one of the big food brands that everybody was feeding their pets was Blue Buffalo. Do you remember that food?
No, but I know where the story's going.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've heard it a million times.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Oh, from you.
Yeah. So the food Blue Buffalo came on the scene, I can't remember, probably like 2010 or something like that. And I probably should have looked this up to know for sure, but I heard that basically a group of marketers got together to create some dog food, and the success that they had selling this dog food was all in their marketing. The dog food was not a good dog food. In fact, if anybody asked me like, what food should I feed my dog? That was like one of the main foods I'd tell people not to feed, and they would be shocked because their marketing was so good. It had like Life Bits or something in it where like gave them all the nutrition that they needed. And if your dog was old and you put him on this food, he was going to run like a kid again, like a puppy again. And your dog was going to live this really long, amazing life if you feed him Blue Buffalo. So there are all these advertisements on TV and popping up online and stuff like that. So all these people would feed Blue Buffalo to their dogs. And what we saw was a lot of bladder stones. So dogs would come in with their bladders just full of stones, and they would always be feeding Blue Buffalo. And we saw a lot of dogs too with cancer, which I don't think was the diet's fault. It wasn't the fault of the food that these dogs got cancer, but inevitably every single owner would be like, that's impossible. You know, I'm feeding my dog Blue Buffalo. It's the best food out there, you know? And it would drive me crazy because the food sucked, but the marketing was excellent. And that's my analogy for how important marketing is. Now, I'm not saying that your photography sucks and you should use marketing to kind of in a scammy way sell your services and charge way more than you're worth and all that kind of stuff. That's not really what I'm saying, but I want to illustrate the power of good marketing in people seeing your value. So we're not going to use it for bad like Blue Buffalo did. We're not going to, be scam artists and fraudsters here, because I guarantee you're probably not charging enough as it is, and you're a good person and you're a good photographer and you deserve to be paid the prices that allow you to have a good life and pay your bills and take on like 20 elopements a year instead of overbooking yourself with a million things and being run ragged for like pennies on the dollar. That's really where I'm going with this, but I wanted to start with that analogy because I guess I've told that story a million times, but I don't think I've told it on this podcast.
Yeah, I did a quick fact check on you.
Oh, thanks.
It was founded in 2003.
Okay.
However, it looks like it was purchased by General Mills for $8 billion
Oh my God.
in 2018. So who knows where it is now, but
probably even more in the crapper.
Yeah, but nevertheless, 2000 and what did I say, 3?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I graduated vet school in 2010, and diet was always a huge conversation when I was in general practice. But yeah, it used to drive me crazy. The owners that would buy that food thinking that it was like this miracle food. So let's get into why it's not your pricing that's the problem. Your pricing is not the reason why you're not getting booked out. It's your marketing. And marketing comes down to, it's like kind of a catch-all term for a lot of things, but it covers your visibility, your messaging, who you're trying to book, and communicating your value to people in a way that makes them excited even to pay you the money that you deserve. So when I am helping somebody kind of troubleshoot their business and figure out like, okay, you want to be a 6-figure elopement photographer, why aren't you there yet? Pricing is like the very last thing that we care about. In fact, most of the time I'm raising people's prices right off the bat because they're oftentimes priced too low. And when you're priced too low, you're going to attract a certain kind of couple that is not our favorite to work with, let's just say. So when you're marketing, you really have to identify the type of person you're trying to work with. And I see a lot of people marketing to the wrong people. And within the wedding industry, there's a lot of subsets. I did a podcast episode a while back on like the 7 types of eloping couples and stuff like that. But I'm going to be even broader right now because what I see is a lot of times people are marketing to wedding couples and then kind of budget elopement couples. So those are 2 very different subsets within couples getting married, and they'll be marketing to them because they have mostly wedding stuff on their website. They talk mostly about weddings, and maybe they have like a 2-hour elopement package on their pricing page that's kind of an afterthought. And those people will be like, oh, there's no money in elopements and I can't book elopements, all that kind of stuff. But then there's this other subset of the wedding industry, which is couples, and it's growing, by the way, by like leaps and bounds.
And continues to grow, right?
Continues to grow. Yes, it is growing and growing and growing. In fact, in 2025, we saw some of the biggest packages ever sold by elopement photographers that I've ever seen. And like when I kind of started back in the day, booking a $5,000 elopement seemed like
the Holy Grail.
Yeah. And like impossible. How could anybody book a $5,000 elopement? Now people are booking those like as that's like their starting price. Like that's where they're starting at and going up and up and up from there. So prices have definitely grown, but like this growing population of people that are getting married each year are couples that really want to invest in an epic all-day elopement. And if you are not marketing specifically to those couples, you're not going to book those couples, and if you only have a 2-hour elopement package on your website, you're going to attract the price shopper couples where they really just want, a ceremony, maybe at a courthouse, maybe it's outside, couple pics, and like their goal is to have a cheap wedding. But there is a huge amount of couples whose goal is not to have a cheap elopement. And are you speaking their language? And can they find you? That's really what it comes down to. It's not that your pricing is too high. It's that either you're marketing to the wrong people, or even if you are trying to market to the couples that want to invest in a really cool elopement day, can they find you? These are the big things that when we fix these things, prices just like are no longer an issue. Now, having said that, there's always going to be a couple out there that says you're out of their budget. Even if you're charging $500, you'd have people saying you're too expensive. The people who have strict budgets and will tell you you're too much money, those people are a vocal minority. So they love to tell people you're too expensive. They love to make it your problem that they can't afford photography or something like that. They are on Threads, they're on TikTok, they are complaining on Facebook groups. Like, you hear it all the time. So that's where we start to get into our heads about maybe the economy is bad and I do need to lower my prices to get booked and stuff like that. But there's plenty of people who are very quietly booking elopement photographers for like $10,000. They don't have anything to complain about, because they're happy and joyful. They don't need to pull anybody else down. Those are the people you want to talk to. Those are the people that you want to market to. And sometimes the vocal people who are really judgy about other people's prices, they get to us, I mean, they get to me sometimes too. I see it all, like on Threads, I see it all the time. People being like, I can't believe people are charging $4,000 for photography. And I want to chime in there and be like, $4,000 is like literally nothing, Like, I can't believe you're complaining about that. But I try to refrain. I'm not perfect, though. Sometimes I get into arguments with people. But yeah, we see plenty of couples booking not only us for a lot of money, but other people for a lot of money. And if this idea of like charging more or catering to people who want to spend more, like, don't let that make you feel greedy or guilty or feel some weird way, because we deserve a lot of money. Photography is one of the most important things to people in the world, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on the podcast, but if your house is burning down, you're saving your photos. Everything else can burn, but your photos are the most important thing that you own, that other people own, that my grandparents own, that my parents own, that your parents own. Photos are the most important thing. Every time I've lost a loved one or a pet, I'm going through my phone trying to find all my photos, So don't discount how important it is that we are documenting people's love stories and that there are other people out there who find it just as important and want to invest in you.
And as like someone in this industry where like, you maybe book 20 or 30 elopements a year, yeah, you are going to treat it as very special when you're doing that work. But you're maybe shooting, 20 or 30 elopements in a year, and you're doing this for multiple years on years, right? But this is this couple's one elopement, right? This is a literal once in a lifetime opportunity.
And they're making an emotional decision to not only elope, but like what they want their elopement day to look like and how they want it captured. Yes, people have a budget, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes. It might be loose, If they can afford $6,000, they might not be able to afford $12,000, But if they can afford $6,000, they can probably afford $6,500 or something. And they're not necessarily going into this experience and trying to find a photographer and trying to get the best deal. That's not their main motivation when booking a photographer.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that they're not looking for that quote unquote deal.
Yeah.
Right? They're just looking for the person or people that match their vibe and that they want to spend their very special day with, that literally you may be the only person that sees them get married. Like if it's just a couple, you got an invite over their parents, over their siblings, over their best friends. That's really big. And you should get paid for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. So that's just to make you feel better about pricing and not to make you feel like, oh, I can't charge. Even if I wanted to charge more, I couldn't because I'd be greedy or guilty or whatever. Like, this is an expensive endeavor to be a photographer and to travel and to location scout and to develop our own artistic eye and to be the unique individuals that we are and to not overbook ourselves and overextend ourselves. We all deserve to be paid well for what we do.
I'm going to throw a little nugget that is kind of along the same lines. So you were talking about people that like to be vocal about getting a good deal, but their prices are too high. And I mean, we get it too, right? Someone may inquire, you may have a call with them, it may go really well, and then the answer or the email in a couple days may be, oh, I've decided to go with option B, because they may give you the excuse of the price, right? But it may not always be that, right? That's just like such an easy excuse for someone to like throw out there. They don't want to hurt your feelings and say like, instead of, oh, you didn't vibe with us. Like it's way easier to say, oh, you're too expensive, I'm going to go with someone cheaper.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like taking the emotion out of the decision and like probably kind of trying to be nice back to you.
It's like a cop out.
Yeah. And so if you are seeing that on occasion, like, I don't think that you should still think it is your pricing. Like, if it's every couple or every inquiry that you get that then either ghosts or turns you down, maybe.
Oh, no. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Because
I like it when these, like, we kind of go off script and kind of make it okay, keep going.
Because this is also why it's not your pricing, it's your marketing. Because, well, really, it's your sales funnel. So when I am helping somebody troubleshoot their sales funnel, pricing is the last thing that we land on. And most of the time, I'm trying to encourage them to increase it. So even if you are getting on the phone with people and sales call after sales call, you're getting like, oh, we've gone a different direction with somebody who's cheaper or something like that, I still wouldn't even think it's your pricing. I would think it's your sales calls, and I would think it's your website and your Instagram presence and stuff like that. It all comes back to marketing. And most of the time we can find cracks in your marketing that need fixed before we ever think about lowering your pricing.
Okay, so you're thinking like maybe like you're speaking the language of someone who doesn't want to spend X thousands of dollars on an elopement, or your website just has the appearance of not a high class experience or something like that. Is that what you're kind of getting at? Is like your whole picture up to that point isn't leading them to a like luxury experience?
Yeah, I mean, you have to communicate your value and build trust ahead of the sales call. And then the sales call, you have to continue building that value and trust. And then the amount of money you're charging just doesn't even enter the picture. So what I see sometimes is when people are like, let's say, well, let me explain kind of like the steps of the sales funnel. So every business has a sales funnel. It is really critical that you guys understand this. Literally every single business has a sales funnel, and it starts with visibility or awareness. People need to know that you exist. Okay. The way we figure out how many people know you exist is by looking at your website numbers. So, how many website visitors you get a month. That says how many people know you even exist. I don't care about your Instagram follower counts. I don't care about likes, comments, any of that. We don't use any of that data. We use your website visitors. If you're super active on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, you still will only get like 20 website visitors a month. So that's an aside. So your visibility or people's awareness that you exist is like step one of your sales funnel.
And I'm going to chime in here because before I got into this entrepreneurial space, I had no idea what that meant. And I probably still don't entirely know. But we're not talking about some like complicated like email chain and like really in depth. We're talking about like literally if you have like go to your kitchen, you get a funnel. At the very top, it has the biggest area. And then as you continue to go down,
people
drop off.
Yeah.
So this is what we're talking about, the funnel. Like imagine like an actual funnel and like think about the number of people at the top. And then as you go deeper and deeper, you lose people. And so there's less area in that funnel. So there's less people in our business sales funnel.
Yeah. And then bookings are dripping out the bottom.
Yeah. Which is like, again, like think of very little compared to what you started with.
Yeah.
And so if you start with a very tiny little
teeny tiny funnel
at the top, you can imagine how small it is at the bottom. So like if you're getting no bookings, it's because you're not starting with very much at the top. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much it's almost foolproof in any business that if you increase the visibility and the awareness and the size of the funnel at the top, that you will be more successful, period. You'll get more bookings. You'll sell more stuff. That's just kind of like common sense. If you have a big, gigantic freaking funnel that's like 3 feet across in your kitchen, you're going to be able to put a lot more water into something than if it's like an inch across, you know? And a lot of people who are like blaming the economy or their prices have these teeny, tiny, tiny funnels, and they don't even know what a sales funnel is, and they've never checked their website traffic, or if they have, it's like 50, 100, 150 or something like that. So almost across the board, if you have more website traffic going into your funnel, then you're going to have more bookings dripping out of the bottom. So we could get a little bit more deeper into that because like it's got to be the right people going into your funnel. Like if all the people visiting your website are people who found a blog post that you posted about cool Airbnbs in the Pacific Northwest and they're just looking about vacations and not elopements, then that will skew your results. But that's beyond the scope of this episode. Okay, so you have visibility / awareness, whatever you want to call it. Then The step down from that is basically how many people go to your website and then inquire with you. And that is a significantly smaller amount of people. So what I have found is that if your website is converting well, and I found this number through years of data and research, that 1% of your website traffic should inquire with you. If your website is not doing its job and you're talking to the wrong people, or you just say like, I love elopements, here are my prices, or something like that, and it's not communicating value and it's not showing your personality, like this is where kind of like marketing goes from just numbers to a little bit of magic. Is this like conversion step? So are you converting the right people and at the right percentage? So a lot of times we can't really know that until you start creating a bigger funnel. So when I'm helping people diagnose why they're struggling in their business, a lot of times they have a visibility issue, first of all. So then we have to start driving traffic to their website to then discover, do you have a conversion issue? Because if you're not getting enough people to your website, it can be really hard to even discover if you have a conversion issue. So the conversion issue is how many people see your website, see your social media, and want to inquire with you.
So quick little call to action. We need to be better at this. I feel like we talk a lot, but easy call to action. Hit the pause button, go to Google Analytics, and see how many monthly website visitors you have. If you don't have Google Analytics hooked up, do that.
Do that, yeah.
This is so important. It'll take less than 15 minutes.
You cannot run your business without Google Analytics set up.
Know how many people are visiting your website.
Mm-hmm.
If you get nothing else from this episode or ever listening to this podcast, go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to hear you talking about the economy or market saturation or your prices or whatever people are saying in Facebook groups. If you don't know your website visitors or if you don't have Google Analytics set up, I don't want to hear any of that because you don't know any of that.
And the next step would be if you have less than 100, you will not get one inquiry in that month.
Yeah.
Like, again, this 1% rule that we've determined. So,
and that's only if your website is really awesome.
Yeah. So, again, go check to see how many visitors you have and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So step 1, visibility/awareness. Step 2, conversion. So that's really where your inquiries come from. They're converting, they are seeing your stuff and then converting and basically raising their hand and being like, hi, I'm interested in your services. Not every inquiry. Remember, this is a funnel. It doesn't just suddenly turn straight right here. It's still funneling people. So you're going to lose people at this step too. So after this conversion rate, then it really becomes like a sales, like your ability to sell yourself. So they inquire. Some of them are going to go. Some of them are just going to fall off the map. But you want to have them schedule a Zoom call with you so you guys can make sure that you're a good fit. You can talk about packages. You can talk about the elopement, all that kind of stuff. So this is where it becomes more of a sales issue. So if you are not getting people on the phone or on Zoom or Google Meetup or whatever it's called, or if you are getting people on there and they are not, and this is the example that you used, and they're not, then booking you, you have a sales issue at that point. You've got a big funnel. You are funneling people to your website. They are converting at your website. And now you're losing them at the sales portion. So you can see marketing is all of these things. It's visibility, it's conversions, it's sales. You might suck at all of those. You might need to fix all of those things. You might be really good at sales calls, but you have nobody visiting your website and nobody inquiring. Or you could have a ton of people visiting your website, but you have a shitty website, So at each of these stages, you got to figure out what the issue is. That's what I take people through, is figuring out and improving their visibility, figuring out and improving their conversions, and then figuring out and improving their sales. At the end of all that, we may talk about pricing, but again, it's normally to increase it. Because if you are good at all of those things, you can just continuously keep increasing your pricing and live a good life, None of us are going to be making a bunch of money photographing $4,000 elopements. You've got to be photographing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 elopements to be profitable. And I'm all about creating profitable businesses for people. So that's why at the end of troubleshooting all of this stuff, your marketing is on fire, you're talking to the right people, your website's converting, you've fixed all these things. So at the end, you get to raise your prices. It's never your pricing, because most of the people who are not doing well have a small funnel, or they suck at sales calls, or their website isn't converting, or all three of those things combined. There's nothing wrong with that. None of this stuff is taught. It's not conventional wisdom. Like, people are like, I just need to post on Instagram and lower my prices. Like, I feel like that's what the conventional wisdom is, and that's not what builds a successful business. Basically, anything that people talk about in Facebook groups, that's not what you should be doing.
And it kind of like goes back to that kind of starving artist idea of like, oh, my art is so good, it'll sell itself. It won't. Like, if people don't see it, they can't book you.
If they don't know you exist, you could be the best photographer in the friggin' world, but yeah, you'll never get bookings. Or you'll squeeze out the occasional drip out of your funnel, and you'll be like, yes, it's finally starting to work, but like, it's not going to work enough over time to build a 6-figure business. You need a certain size funnel to be able to do that. And you need to know how to continuously troubleshoot that funnel and kind of like improve things over time, refine and optimize over time. It's not like you understand your funnel, you pour into it, and it all just freaking works like magic. Like, you still have to kind of improve things over time, and it gets better and better and better. And then your prices go up and up and up. And that's how you become a 100K, 200K elopement photographer. So I do want to mention, though, because inevitably somebody was like, well, what about so-and-so? They're such a great photographer, and that's how they got popular. That's how they got popular with other photographers. Okay. To be a successful business owner and actually book things, I can't tell you how many quote unquote successful elopement photographers I know that are not really booking things because they don't know this stuff. And they're having to rely on income from other photographers to make ends meet because they're popular with photographers, not with people who are getting married. And then the really good photographers who are booked out and doing really well understand marketing. Like Henry too, my favorite elopement photographer who photographed our elopement, who could have charged me 20 grand and I still would have paid it. You know, he markets himself. He markets his ass off, you guys. Not only on social media, but on Google. Any destination that you Google, his shit is up there, you know, because he knows how to market and he knows how important that is. And that is why he is booked out. That is why he has 2 associates that are also booked out. That's why he continuously increases his prices, because he's basically forced to. Yes, he does some education, but he is a fully booked photographer because they understand marketing. Marketing is the solution to all of our problems. And I really, really, really just want to drive that home and help you realize that it is not your pricing. It's not because you're a bad photographer. It's not anything other than you probably have a really small funnel. And then as you improve that funnel, as you get more people into it, you're going to notice some cracks that need fixing. And you're going to fix those cracks. And you're going to be successful, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Start with the big funnel, fix the cracks.
Yeah. It's easy for me. It's easy for me to look at other people's stuff and to be like, this, you know, we need this, we need that, blah, 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 do this, do that, all those things. That's why it's not luck, it's not hope, it's not gambling on Instagram.
Or in a Facebook group where randomly throw your name in and like hope and pray, cross your fingers.
Yeah, it's none of that stuff. It is understanding the numbers and the magic and just making it work for yourself. And yeah, hopefully that was educational. Hopefully that gives you kind of like a background look at what I do to help people, because I do have spots open for the Elopement Photographer Mastermind right now. And I would love for you to apply if you want my hands all over your funnel. If you want my eyes on your funnel, if you want to understand what the hell I'm talking about, if you want to learn how to market yourself, if you want to increase your prices and get bookings and attract the right kind of people that you're going to be obsessed with, then that's what I help you do in the Elopement Photographer Mastermind. That's why we get so many great results. I was just talking with somebody else about this, like the woo-woo parts of this that I'm not going to go into today's podcast, or I'm not going to go into that in today's podcast because I do think that's where some of the magic comes from. And I used to say marketing is all numbers and not magic, but I'm backtracking. And I do think it is numbers and magic. So yeah, if you want help with all those things, overcoming some of the discomfort, figuring all of this out, becoming a freaking, like a true entrepreneur and business owner, then I will have the application link in the show notes to apply for the Elopement Photographer Mastermind. I'd love to see your application come through because I'd love to help you and I want you to see that this is possible for you. And I can see your potential and I can help you and it's all going to be great. Thanks for listening to this episode. Hopefully it was enlightening and I can't wait to see your application come through. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit six figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.